It is an interesting day. It is definitely interesting. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the call. So this is the time when we get to answer any questions that you guys have about any of the training so far. So do we have anybody that has any questions?
All right, guys, if you have a question, pop it in our chat box so that we can start asking questions. We'll pull you up and you can ask questions to Roland. This is for all of our members. So guys, use this time. This is your time with Roland. So any questions? Everyone's quiet. Everyone's super quiet today. I think they had way too much fun buying their businesses over the weekend.
I was going to say, yeah, hopefully that's what everybody did this weekend. I know some people barbecued, but why not buy businesses? So
awesome. Jonathan Corsandi has a question.
All right.
All right, Jonathan, you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Hey guys, hi Roland.
Hey John.
Thank you so much for putting this together. I was in the first round a couple of months ago, and I was in the middle of the move to Paris from LA, and now I'm in Paris, and I bought the course 3 weeks ago. I'm very excited to get started.
Nice.
And from what I can tell from what I'm learning from all your classes, I need a bit of a mind shift, a mindset change. Maybe you can help me with. Because initially I thought I'm going at it saying, I want to come buy your business. I want to buy your business, kind of almost like a predatory thing. Like, let me just buy your business because I know better. And that's not how I want to get into it. I used to consult for businesses, and what I liked there was like, let me help you with your business. And what I've been learning more lately from your classes is go into a business, say, hey, what's your biggest challenge? What are you guys about, and how's things working out for you? And then with that high pitched voice, have you ever thought about selling, right?
You ever think about selling?
Yeah. So now I'm thinking, okay, so once to get to that point, like during the talk and conversation, like how do you weave that in there? That's question number one. And question number two, I'm still having a challenge with like, how much do I disclose to them that I want to carve out and take things out of the business to pay them once the deal is closed? And how does that happen? Because those 159 ways of doing it, that's a lot. I just need like starting point, and like, when do I say what, and how do I close the deal? And then how do I carve all the other stuff out?
Okay. So let's go back just to be sure I understand the first question. So tell me the first question one more time. The second one I totally got.
Yeah. So the first question is more about like, maybe you can help me. How do I approach these people that look like they'd be good candidates to sell without coming across like I'm predatory and I want to buy their business and take advantage of the situations? Because the name of your program is EPIC, like Ethic Profits in times of crisis. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure I lead with that, but I feel a bit aggressive maybe coming at the business. So how do you like?
So give me an example.
Well, there's some, I haven't identified the business yet, but I think the reason why I haven't identified one, because I'm lacking confidence in like how I want to approach them, and saying like, oh, this business looks interesting. I could buy it because I know better, or I should just buy it, or because you don't know what you're doing. That's kind of the mind chat in the back of my mind. I'm looking for a better way to approach it. Like, how can it be helpful? How can I add more value? And then at some point, would it make sense for me to buy it?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with going in from the start. It depends totally on the situation, right? So it's contextual. If it is an initial outreach and you really want to buy it, you can say, I'm an investor, and I mean, you've had your outreach, right? So you should be following up, and they've responded in some way saying, I'm interested in talking about investment or whatever, right? Let's use that as an example. So if that's the case, then you'd simply say, tell me about the business. Okay, awesome. And you go through that process, and you kind of, you mentioned it, so you already know my strategy is, that's an interesting business. How's it going? Have you ever thought about selling? Right. That's pretty non-aggressive. Now the ethical part comes in as you're not trying to steal the business from them. You're trying to get them what they want. So, remember, we're looking for motivated sellers. So, and even if, even if they don't know how to run it and you could run it better, obviously you just want to say, listen, I've been looking for a business. If you look at like the scripts that we give out, right? I'm looking for a business that's doing between this much in top line, or in an EBITDA in this industry, in this area. And yours came up in my research. Well, now you've got a conversation going. And then that first conversation is, so tell me a little bit about the business, right? I saw that you might want to invest in the business, so I want to talk to you. That's awesome. Let me find out a little bit more about it. How did you get started in this? What's the story of this business? And then build that rapport with them. And then you move into, Well, listen, so as I mentioned in my email, letter, phone call, whatever, I'm looking for businesses like this. Yours seems like it fits the bill. Is this something that you might be interested in selling, or what are you thinking you want to do with the business?
Perfect.
Right. And then you can lead them down that path from there. And if they say, well, I'm just looking for an investor. Okay, fantastic. What are you going to do with the money? Right. That's
Love
what
it.
and no investor just says, because if they were like, I'm not going to tell you, you'd be like, then I'm not going to invest. Right. So if you say, okay, that's great. I'm not interested in selling right now, but I'm just looking for some money. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about that. What do you need money for right now? Oh, we want to get more marketing, or we need to pay off our bills, or we need to do this or that or the other. And you just go through a normal dialogue and kind of figuring out, how can I get them what they want in a way that makes sense for me? Because if you can get them what they want, then it might be simply that in talking with them, they're not interested in selling, but you see, knowing the 159, which is actually 216, ways that you can help get that business financed, that you could simply bring that to the table and say, well, listen, I specialize in helping businesses like yours get access to the things they need. I do this as an investor. So I consult. There are a lot of assets that are hidden in businesses that they don't even realize they have. And so if I could get you that 300 grand or 700 grand or whatever that you think you need, or we could get you the things that you say that you need that you're going to spend the money on, then is that something that you would be interested in doing a deal with? Because I do that and I take a piece of the company for doing that. Right. So now you're into that, and there's but that sounds, I'm also open to just buying it.
Okay.
Right. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you, Roland. Thank you.
Okay. And then the second question, I think, was how much do you tell them about what you're going to do? And the answer to me is that the only thing that you have to tell them about is the pre stuff. So I've divided it into things that you do before LOI and close and after. Yeah. So all of the financing stuff after, like factoring and that kind of stuff, that's none of their business. That's what you're going to do to help pay for it after the fact. You only say, if you and I are having a conversation and you say, I would like to sell, my business for $1 million. Great. Fantastic. So that's awesome, Jonathan. So if I can get you $1 million for the business, you're happy with it? Yes. Okay, great. So I've got some questions I need to go through. I need to get a little bit of information about the company to find out, what it's worth and all that. Do you have that information available right now? It's going to be like sales and assets and things like that. Or would you like to set a separate time to have that conversation? I don't have it all off the top of my head. Fantastic. So really, if you've got an income statement and a balance sheet for the last couple of years, that's really what I'd like to see. Can you send that to me? Well, I'm afraid you'll steal my stuff. I'm happy to sign a non-disclosure agreement with you so that you can be comfortable that I'm not going to share that with anybody. I'm only really interested in getting this information to acquire the business. So great. Okay. So then they send you that business. They send you those documents. Now you're going to say, okay, so you said you want $1 million for it. Now I see that you've got a few things that I don't really need in the business. And maybe it looks like you acquired them because I know a lot of entrepreneurs acquire things, and you've got a few in here. So I don't really need the $10,000 golf simulator that you've got for your sausage business. I don't see how I can use that. So it seems like we could probably just carve that out of the deal. Does that make sense, Jonathan? Yes. Okay, great. Fantastic. So you keep the golf simulator and we'll just take the $10,000 book value off of the deal. So that's how you go through your carve outs, right?
Understood. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so one of the things that I like to do is when I'm acquiring businesses is I like to, be sure that you've still got some skin in the game. It helps me feel like you have confidence that the business is in a good spot. Is there, could you tell me what you're planning on doing with the money once? So if I give you the $1 million, what are you going to go do with that? Is it, well, it's none of your business. Well, that just helps me to understand things that we might be able to do, because maybe I can get you some of the things that you're going to use that $1 million to buy, and I can do it in a way that would be better for you. Does that make sense? Yes. Or screw you, in which case it's like, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. Right? So yes, fantastic. Okay, good. What are you going to do with the money? Well, I've got this thing that I want to do. I'm thinking about buying this other business, and it's going to take me $400,000 to do that. And then I want to take a trip around the world, and that's going to be $100,000. And then the rest of it, I guess I'm going to put in savings. Fantastic. Well, if you put it in savings, you're only going to get like 0.012%, right? Yeah, it kind of sucks. You can play the stock market, but that's up and down. why don't you just let me pay you interest on that money? And you can finance part of the purchase for me and I'll pay it for you over time. Might be better for you anyway, because you'll be getting that money over, say, 3 years or 5 years, and that could put you in a better tax bracket even. And then they'll say they aren't interested in that, but very often they are. And so now you've cut in half. Now that's the work that you've done in advance, right? And you might also say, I might also say, well, Jonathan, I know you said you want $1 million and I want to get you what you want, but I really want to be sure that the business is going to perform the way you're saying it's going to perform. And I'm sure it will. Sometimes in the past I've had situations where it didn't. I know that's not going to happen here, but would you be open to doing what we call an earnout, so that I say, as long as the business does what it did last year for the next 12 months, then I give you 200,000 of your million at the end of that period. So these are all things that you have to talk to the seller about, right?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yep.
And then when it closes, then I own that business, and then I can do whatever with that business, what I want to do. And he's a separate owner, like he's no longer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's where I wasn't connecting the dots. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So go through that list and then, look at all the things that are pre, and those are the things that you generally are going to want to kind of have conversations either with the seller or somebody else about. Like, for example, if you were going to talk to a supplier, you could do that before or after closing. But if it was important to you because you were $50K away from doing the deal and you needed that $50K, you could say to the seller, I'm going to do some due diligence. I want to talk to a couple of your suppliers. So I'm going to have the supplier list as I go, because I need to be sure that the business is current on all its accounts. And always when you're talking about something that might be like that, don't say you, say the business. I always put it on anybody other than the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I want to be sure the business's accounts are current and in good standing. That's just standard stuff, Yeah. And then when you talk to each of the suppliers, say, look, I know that you've been supplying the company since 1972, and you guys have had a great relationship and everything. I'm in the process of doing due diligence to potentially acquire the business, and I'd love to continue doing business with you. I was wondering if you would be open to, and then you can say a loan, terms on payment, consignment, like all the different options that are available for supplier. Now you're having that conversation with a supplier. You don't need to tell the seller that you're having that conversation, because you've told the seller you're going to have a due diligence conversation. And during that conversation, if you bring up potential future ways that you might do business together with the supplier once you're the owner, that's none of the seller's business either.
That's brilliant. That's so brilliant. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
You're very welcome.
Really great. Thank you.
Perfect. Bon chance.
And I believe Vincent Williams had a question for you. Vincent, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? If not, he's trying to get around the, he's trying to get around the brokers.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute. Yeah. Sorry. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah. So I have a couple of leads from some acquisition companies, and a couple from brokers as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to figure out how to have that initial conversation with the owners, because the brokers are blocking and are saying, well, fill out this this buyer qualification questionnaire, and I'm just not sure that I'm even interested in the deal yet. So I really kind of need to look a little bit closer. So, and I know you've said it before, but I couldn't find it. I've gone through all of the other the recordings, but I just can't find where you addressed it.
Yeah. So of course, the first thing I always say is don't ever do deals with brokers, but we are where we are. So I'm not going to say don't do deals with brokers. Don't do deals with brokers. So the thing that's one of the challenges, right? Is that they're deal blocking because they don't want to quote unquote waste their time or their seller's time with looky-loos and people who aren't serious or people who can't close the deal. And so to me, it's just, look, I'm a serious buyer. I have interest in the company. I don't know if I want it yet. I'm not going to take the time to fill all that stuff out if I can't have just a simple conversation with the seller. So I'm looking to have a simple conversation with the seller that lasts approximately 30 minutes to find out a little bit more about the company to determine if I want to move forward. If I can't have that conversation, I am not going to move forward. So it's up to you guys. Do you want to sell the business or do you not? Are you sellers or are you not? Right? That's it. And I don't have a percentage on that. It depends on how motivated or how much of a, an ego the broker has. But it's like, look, I'm here to do a deal. I'm not here to waste your time. This is something that I do regularly. If you do it regularly, or this is something that I'm very interested in, I'm definitely a ready, willing, and able buyer, but I just don't know. I've got a little bit of information from your deal sheet, but I need to know a little bit about the company, about the history of the company to see if it's a right fit for me. If it is, then I'm happy to fill out the information for you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. But that's the challenge, is those guys just get in the way,
All right, George Saviticus, you had a question.
Now, let me say one other thing to Vincent. Do you go by Vincent or Vinny?
Vincent.
Okay. So one other thing, Vincent, that I would think about is if you have tried that channel and it doesn't work and you know the name of the company, you can always reach out to the person directly.
Yeah. Yeah, they hide that, but.
Yeah, well, and so, I mean, that's going to be part of the deal, but it's like, look, I would tell, let's say it's Hal is my guy from the challenge, right? I'd be like, that was the broker. And Hal says, well, I can't tell you what the business is until you fill out the stuff. So look, here's the deal, Hal. You've got a contract with the business, so you're not going to get cut out of the deal no matter what. I need to know if this is something that generally fits the parameters of what I'm looking for. I'm not in the habit of sharing my financial or other information with anybody. I'm not going to be a client of yours. I'm looking for this business to buy. I've identified 4 that I'm talking to. This is one of those 4, and I'm going to have a conversation with each seller, or I'm not moving forward. So if you want me to move you guys out, with all respect, I understand if you don't want to do it, but I don't understand. I mean, I understand that the reasons might be that you're afraid I'm not serious. I'm telling you I am. I understand you might think that that I don't have the money. I'm telling you I do. It might be that you're afraid that I'm going to go around you, but you have a contract with your seller, so I can't do that. So it's up to you. And I get this with it's really funny. My wife and I were looking at properties in Las Vegas, and this almost never happens when you're looking at higher end properties. But I had an agent that was, I guess, inexperienced or something, and they were like, you need to give us a financial statement and proof of funds. And I was like, no, we don't do that. And she was like, yeah, but that's what we need. And I said, why do you need that? If you don't need that, there's a whole bunch of real estate people in Las Vegas that I can talk to who don't require that. I don't know if I want to work with you. I don't know you. I don't know if I want to buy the properties that you have. And I'm not giving my financial information to anybody unless and until I get to the point of having a deal. So do you want to show me properties or not? And she's like, okay. So, that, but sometimes you'll get just a jerk and they'll be like, well, then you're not serious. And I'm like, okay, no problem.
Great. That's very helpful.
Awesome.
All right.
A lot of it will be your confidence though.
Right.
It's like when you come on strong like that in a polite, professional way, it's kind of like, look, dude, this is not how we do it. If I'm a private, and you could even, because you can own your own private equity company, you can approach it from the same standpoint they would. It's like, look, we don't do that. That's not how this works. So if this guy's got any experience at all, he's going to understand that. When a private equity company calls and says, we're interested in buying this company, you don't typically say, well, I'm going to need a proof of funds and some background on your people. And I need to know your address and your phone number. And it's going to be like, either you're interested or not. Anyway, go ahead, Dee. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine. This is actually great. So the next question was actually from George Savaticus. So George, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? It was regarding seller consulting.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Roland. Hi, everyone.
Hey, George.
So I found the questionnaire, the strategies that you told me. And what caught my eye was the seller consulting to offset the purchase price.
Yes.
I have two questions here. The first one, how do I pivot from talking to the owner for a $1,000 to $2,000 a month SEO package, and then going to, I'm actually going to charge you $20,000 a month to offset, the purchase price, like you and Adam was saying in some other videos.
Well, so just let's break it down into 2 different things. One thing that you can do is you can take part of the purchase price. So in the deal that I was talking with Jonathan about, right? You say $1 million deal, and I don't want to pay the $1 million right now. So one of the conversations I can have with the seller in advance is, look, I'll pay you $800,000 for the company, and then I would like for you to do a 2-year consulting agreement with the company at $100,000 a year. So now I've deferred $200,000 of what the seller wants over a period of 2 years. So that's what I'm talking about in the document you're looking at. To answer your question, which is different, right, would be, how do I go from that? It's pretty easy. Is number one, you need to have a more expensive package, right? So you can have your $1,000, $2,000 a month package, but keep in mind a $2,000 a month package is $24,000 a year. So a 4-year deal on that would be $100K, right? So you would have the ability to say, if you're looking at consulting into a company as opposed to, having the owner consult out, then you would simply say, look, the way I normally do this is it would cost you cash of $24,000 a year to do this particular package. Now, I would suggest that you have a $10,000 a month and $20,000 a month package as well, right? And you put it on your site, and it'd be real. It's like, I would do that for 20 grand a month, and it would be amazing. I'll build you a private blog network and separate servers and all kinds of crazy government links and everything else. So then what you do is you just say, so let's say that you were talking to me originally about this $2,000 a month package. Honestly, I think you need the $10,000 package. It's going to be $120,000 a year. And typically you want to commit to about a 2-year program to really get the SEO to be mature and have it doing everything that it can do for you. It's not an instant fix. And I like the takeaway here. I don't deal with companies that only want to do this for 30 or 60 or 90 days or even 6 months, because the truth is this stuff takes time, right? It is a strategy. It's an important channel for you that you're not taking advantage of right now. So coming in at the $2,000 a month package alone would be $24,000. For 2 years, it'd be $48,000. I'm willing, because I believe in the company, to invest in the company to an extent as well. And so now you get to decide what you want to do here, George. You can say, so I want half. I'm only going to take half of that, $1,000 a month, which basically just covers my costs to work with you. And then the other half, I'm willing to take equity for. So your company's $1 million company, and that would be $1,000 a month effectively for 24 months or $24,000. So that'd be 2.5% of the company, right? That would be a way of doing that. But the reason that I think you need and should have more expensive consulting packages for SEO is, number one, you can do a lot more for more money, right? I know, because I watch lots of people do it, and I bet you can do lots of great things. And then, and also it gives you the ability to negotiate better, because you can say, now I'll take half, means you'll take $5,000 a month, right? It raises your perceived value to them. It allows you to do more. And it also gives you the ability to have, say, $60,000 a year in cash for doing the services that you're doing, which probably would cost you $2,500 a month, let's say, right? And then the other $60K you're investing, but you're getting a lot more of the company, because on that same deal, on a 50-50, you'd be talking about $240,000. You talk about $120,000 of $1 million company would get you 12% instead of 2.5%.
Got it. Wow. Thank you. Yes.
You're very welcome. Those are fun deals too. They're just so much fun to negotiate, because it's straight negotiating.
Okay, Jason Cooksey has a question on a deal that he's deep in diving in and thinking of formulating the LOI. He met with someone yesterday. Jason, are you available to chat for just 1 second?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Roland. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time, and really enjoyed the course. It's been absolutely incredible, and the value you've provided is sensational. So thank you for that.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, I'm in an interesting kind of situation. Just get your advice on it. I know you probably won't like this deal, because I follow you around a few social media channels, and you say stay away from low margin businesses, but I'm looking at a low margin business.
All right. Okay. Do you have a business broker involved in it too?
Yeah, probably. But here's the deal. It's kind of interesting, because this guy's got an export company, been around since 2005. It's in food export, mainly to Asia. Does about 11 million, small little company with an SDE of about 4%. Which is kind of standard in these export companies. He's in a branded food product business, so it's not commodity based. So some of his key accounts have been around for 15 years. In my investigation, I kind of partnered up with another guy in Vegas who has over $100 million business in the produce side. And he and I met. I flew out to Vegas and to meet each other, and he's kind of interested on it as well, thinking, oh, that might be a nice little subsidiary of my company that we could grow and turn this $11 million company together into a $100 million company.
Right.
And, it's based in a high cost jurisdiction. There's and maybe because it's service based, this company can be operated everywhere. I just pick it up and move it to Las Vegas because the owner is involved full time. And, he's the main sales guy. He has like a couple of operational people that are doing their logistics, shipping, and all that sort of stuff.
This is the company you're looking at acquiring, the $11 million?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he going to come with the company?
Is he coming?
Is he going to stay with the company?
No.
Okay.
He's the reason for him selling is he's approaching retirement. He's in his late 60s.
Okay.
He's also immune compromised, so he's got some health concerns.
Okay.
And part of the role involves traveling to Asia, meeting key customers. So he's asking on an SDE of about 437, which is pretty consistent over the last 4 years. The sales have been consistent over the last 4 years. There hasn't been any growth and there hasn't been any decline. He's looking at 1.2 million.
Okay.
And given that, he'll be leaving, there's a transition period. There's no assets to speak of because it's service based. He doesn't hold any inventory other than owns it for a little period of time while it's shipping. There is a line of credit. He's also not that's required probably to fund purchases of inventory. He doesn't take advantage of a tax structure that it's available to U.S. exporters, which is called a IC Disc Corporation, where you can get your federal taxes down to effectively zero, which is pretty phenomenal. So there's upside in the operation and just pure structure. And potentially me partnering with this guy in Vegas and plugging into the back end of his logistics, saving about $140,000 employee costs and doing a back office arrangement with him, and me jumping in his spot and looking to grow and scale the sales aspect in the meat and dairy sector, whereas he's in the produce.
Okay. So what is your question?
The question is, what would you think on like a low margin business where the seller's a key employee? How would you approach a negotiation on that? And, to be within the zone of fairness, there's an exclusive distribution agreement. All the customers could go away. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. There's no predictable sales method in place. How would you go about valuing, a business like that where you're essentially looking at buying initially a job because he hasn't scaled it. It can't run without him.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that you have to do is that roughly 440 in profit, you're going to have to add. Is he taking a salary out of the company before he gets to the
he's
440?
taking about 300 and 120 is, running through the books as a profit.
Okay. So he's taking his comp out of that 440.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to have to add back for a manager on that, right? You're going to have to take that out of there.
Yeah.
So that might be something he hasn't thought about. And so what I would do is I'd say, look, the multiple is fine. It's roughly a 3x. The challenge is that you've got some things that are going to be expenses that don't exist right now because you are doing this and you're paying yourself. And, it's going to cost me about X to have somebody come in and do the things that you're doing. So you have to figure out what all is this person doing right now. and what is the replacement cost of those people? Because any buyer is going to look at that, right? You don't just get to say, and I'm free. Well, do I need you in the company? Yes, I'm your lead salesperson and I run the company. Well, I'm probably going to need some other people to do those things, as will anybody who comes in. And so I think explaining that to them, remember that before you get into all that, you want to kind of future pace them and say, that's awesome. So you're looking for about $1.2 million or whatever it was for the company. What are you going to do with that? Right? What's coming next? So you're going to retire, maybe he's just going to invest it. Okay, fantastic. What are you going to invest in it? I'm going to buy real estate, or I'm going to put in a CD or whatever, right? Then that's going to give you an idea of what kind of return he's looking for. So if you can provide the same or better return in seller financing, then that immediately helps you get to that. So I want to know that before I start, talking about the price. Now I've got that to work with. So then I'm going to talk to him and say, okay, here's the deal though. I'm going to, I've looked at PayScale and Glassdoor and salary.com, and to get a salesperson for a company like this and a CEO is going to cost about $200,000 a year. So we really need to back out of that 440 about $200,000, let's just say. So you're going to have data to support what you're talking about. And he's going to go, oh, shoot, I didn't think about that, right? Because you're like, unless you're going to stay and work for free, which I don't think you're going to do because you want to retire and you don't want to go to Asia. Totally get that. I'm trying to get you what you want, but that's going to have to be backed out. Well, if that's backed out, now you're at 220, right? And then you say, so at that same multiple, we're really looking at about 660. Yeah. And he says, no, I really need $1.2 million. It's okay, but then that means your multiple is close to 6. And, if you look in the industry, you'll want to see what are businesses like this selling for, because he's got a good, 11 million is good revenue. So he should be a relatively solid company. But, that's going to be something that you're going to do too, is say, well, if businesses in the industry sell for maybe it's 5, right? And you were only asking 3. So we put this together. It looks like, 5 times 200,000 is roughly $1 million. So we're looking at $1 million. And you said that you need this much to go buy the house or whatever that you want to buy, so the difference you're going to take and invest somewhere. Well, what better investment could you have than the company that you've already know is solid and safe, and I'm willing to pay you more than you can get anywhere else. So let's do seller financing on that. Now you've got a little bit lower purchase price and a good little bit for seller financing, and the rest should be able to come from the profits of the company. Particularly if you're the guy that's stepping in to that job, right? Well, now that's money that you'll have available to yourself and to buy the deal. So that would be,
that's fantastic. What would you, on a deal like that, what would you think would be a typical earn-out period, on that, or just make it all
earn-out period, or an earn-out, or a seller finance period? Because they're two different things.
Yeah. So, seller financing.
Seller finance on the short side, 24 months, on the longer side, 7 years. You got a retirement guy there. I mean, so he might actually like the idea. And you might be willing to pay more. I'm willing to pay more for good terms. So maybe you get him up to the $1 million too. You say, look, dude, I'll give you $100,000 a year for the next 12 years.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
So
yeah, he told me he's motivated. So I did ask that question and what he was going to do with the money. I asked him if he was going to buy a boat, or a yacht or something like that. And he said, "Oh no, the wife won't let me do that." And I said, "Do you have enough money to retire? If you can't sell this business, do you have enough money to retire today?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, I'm fine." So he told me he was motivated. I mean, which was good. And he doesn't have the money earmarked for anything else. Then he wants to get out of the business.
Yeah, that's great. I think that combination is what you're after, is, find out from the industry or the research you can do or the documents that I gave you guys, what is the multiple typically for a company like that, so for yourself, because you got to be thinking about the potential of selling it, to like private equity or somebody. You're going to do better, by the way, than he's doing. And then when you know that, plus you work on the restatement of earnings to reflect things that, that he's got there, that salary wise, particularly for the replacements, which, is going to be you, but you're not going to work for free. And then I think you'll get within a range. And now then you go for the seller finance and potentially an earn out as well. So you can say, look, just to keep things safe, I really like to do a 20% earnout. So at the end of 12 months, 24 months, however you want to do it, we will, I'll pay you the rest, but I want to know that the business does perform, just to be safe, because right now there's no predictable selling system. You're the only guy that's selling. It's connections and word of mouth. I got to depend on you to be there for at least 90 days, 6 months, whatever you decide to do this, which would also then open up the door to what I was talking with, I think it was Vincent, about the consulting side of things, right? Or George, the consulting, that was George. The consulting side of things might be good there, because you're like, dude, you've got to make these introductions. I'm not just going to be able to come in and have these relationships. So since I don't know that if I spend X in advertising, I'm going to get Y in revenue, and that's going to continue, I need you to work with me for a period of time. So what I'd like to do is take 100,000 of that and pay you as a consultant for 12 months, $8,333 a month or something like that. So that starts to give you a little bit more shape to the deal. Does that make sense?
You're brilliant. I love it, Roland. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Yeah. And as you get into it, come back on the calls and let us know what, as how it's going. And then we can kind of work through additional things as well.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. The next question is from Suleiman Husani. Suleiman, are you ready?
Hi, Roland and everyone.
How you doing?
Good. Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good.
So, Roland, I'm looking at a RegTech business. I didn't even know about RegTech before. So pretty green, pretty new to this, but it's a kind of interesting area. And the business is selling for around 31K.
Okay.
And it's making like decent profit, like 2K in net. So the multiple is pretty good, I think.
Okay.
It's pretty reasonable. But what is making me nervous is this, having no experience in this RegTech area. And I think it applies to many people, right? They're trying to get into businesses which they have not a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So one is that. The other one is how would you approach this deal? I spoke to the guy for about 1 hour, and looks pretty genuine. He's from Italy, and he wants to sell it because he wants to take care of some in-laws hotel chain and all that, and a pretty genuine guy. And I also he was open also to the idea of a earn-out. So I talked about an earn-out option with him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be open to that as well." So so how would you approach from the unfamiliarity of the territory and the structuring of the deal piece?
Well, the structuring of the deal, I've got all kinds of training on, and so if you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer. But just going through all the ways that we do that, I think will help you a lot. As far as the not being familiar with either a geographic territory or a particular kind of thing, you've got to think about the operator. So is this person going to leave the business or stay in the business after you acquire it?
Most probably leave.
Okay. So if they're going to, and that's not, don't assume that that's the case, because we frequently buy, and private equity almost always buys businesses and the owners stay on as a minority shareholder for some period of time, right? So that's a fantastic opportunity for you to say, perhaps, look, I'm interested in buying 80% of the company, and I'd like for you to stay on, and we can do earn out, salary, consulting, all of those kinds of things. So that would be one way to handle the not knowing the business. The other would be, is there somebody in the business right now? Is it just a one-person show, or is there somebody else that's an employee that knows how things work?
So that's the other attraction. So it's very lean. It's just one person, and he has freelance writers. So the costs are pretty low.
Okay, great. So who's going to manage those people when that guy's no longer there? Are you going to do that?
So yeah.
Okay. So you have to figure out how do you, what expertise is required? Is it basically, is it a publishing business, right? These guys are creating content?
It is. It is kind of. It's like a publishing for this very niche specific, right? So it's
Right.
within the within this compliance, and then very very niche area, and they have a lot of traffic. So I come from I have a lot of SEO background, and they have a lot of eyeballs, on the site.
So I don't know that if it's primarily through publishing, I don't know that you really need to have a lot of experience yourself in it. You know how to get traffic, you know how to build the site right up. So you've got that part of it down, and you've got the writer as a freelance writer that's generating the stuff, that's giving you the content that you need to fuel the business. So if you're going to run the business, I think you're probably fine. It's just not that hard, right? It's a model that is relatively common and easy to understand. You don't need to know anything about the subject matter really, because it's just the business. That's the widget that company's selling. So if that's the case, then I don't think it makes any difference at all. But if you do feel like special knowledge is needed, then you've got to budget in the business that you're going to bring somebody in to do that. And if it's only making a couple $1,000s a month, then there's not a lot of budget for that. So that would be a concern. So that's the very first threshold question, I think, is can you do this without having expertise? And is the expertise that exists within the freelance person all you need with respect to that? Because the model's really easy. I have a site, I create traffic, I send the traffic to the content, and then you make money however you make money.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So his primary monetization comes from the subscription. Yep. So he has all these reg tech companies on the site, and they're paying him around $300 a year for subscription.
Okay.
So that's another thing for me. I'm like, why would people pay for that kind of a subscription when you have, let's say, New York Times? Or why would somebody go to a site, even though it's very niche and all that? That's another kind of a.
So when you ask the seller that, what does he or she say?
I did not ask. I thought about it after the meeting.
Yeah. So that's a question that I would definitely ask, right? So tell me, what is it that causes people to come here? And then what you might also do as part of your due diligence is reach out to 5 or 10 of those clients and say, just randomly, how many customers do they have right now that are paying $300 a month?
They have around 27.
Okay. So 27. So let's say you reach out to 5 of those customers. Give me every 4th customer. And now you're reaching out to, that would be what, roughly 6 customers, and just say, hey, I'm just calling. We're taking a survey to provide better services for the company, and I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask. Do you have a minute to do that? And then ask them, what do you like best? What do you like least? How likely are you to continue your subscription going forward? Right? You can ask those questions, which are great due diligence questions that you'll want the answers to be sure that they're going to stay. But also it will give you insight into what's special about the company to see if it's sustainable or growable.
Yeah. So, and one of his selling points is he's saying that 60% of his subscribers resubscribe. So that's one of his selling points. So he's like, oh yeah, people are coming back, and they're doing it every year.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd say, so basically, so what you're telling me is you're losing 40% of your business every single year.
That's the other way to look at it.
There's the other side of it, right? So that means every 2.5 years, I need to have completely replaced this business with new business. And there's only 27 people. So, there's not a lot that I have to work with. I'm just saying in terms of having a conversation, you say those things and you can say them with a smile, but they will land, right? It's like, and I'm keeping 60% of my business. Awesome. So every 2.5 years, we have to get 100% new business, right? Oh, yeah. It's like.
Yeah, I like that. I like because you sometimes don't see the other side, right? You're always
exactly
seeing the other side. Yeah.
But yeah, so to answer the core question that you ask, it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like it's an issue that it's not something you know a whole lot about, because at this point, even my business partner, Ryan Dice, will tell you he doesn't know that much about marketing. Like when people ask him questions about the things that digital marketer teaches, he's like, I don't know. I'm a businessman now, right? Mm-hmm. I started as a marketer and but I don't know what button on Facebook you hit to do that, or what switch I can't set up a server and do this, that, and the other. And I probably could if I looked into it, but that's not what I do. You don't need to do that to run this business. You've got somebody that can write about the stuff you need to write about. So all you need to be is a business person who understands, how do I get traffic? How do I get customers to convert? And how do I keep customers from churning, right? That's what you care about. And so I think a little bit of due diligence for you to do on how to figure that out, a little bit of due diligence on figuring out what is it about the company that's special, and what will cause the people to stay, and how likely are they to renew, will give you a lot of information.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, so Solomon, that was great. Jonathan Bates, you are up next, my friend.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Thanks.
Great.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So we're looking at a MSP that is almost breaking. It's tracking to break $1 million this year. Last year was 950,000. But they have low margins, like you were saying, like 5%. I think it's because they're buying the equipment and doing stuff. But managed service provider is the MSP that I'm talking about.
Yep.
And it's like tech equipment. But they so after profit last year, they only made about $50,000, but their adjusted EBITDA was about $142,000. So they're taking some money out and put it back and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But with that margin, and there's the owners started another tech company that's blowing up, and so they've just kind of neglected this for about 4 years.
Great.
They're increasing about 10% a year, but they have no sales, no leadership, and no marketing. I mean, $0 spent on marketing. And so with that margin and that amount of profit, I'm looking more of an earn in versus a buyout,
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking seeing if you had any other strategies for that.
So what's the question exactly?
That's what I was thinking. I didn't know if you had like a smarter way to acquire it.
So right now, how are you planning on acquiring it right now? Through some sort of earn-in?
Yep. So because it's such a small deal, we're thinking about doing the closing, then due diligence, just like you guys were talking about.
Uh-huh.
Getting the guarantees and warranties in there, but then taking over 80% of the company and still giving him 20% of the profits, then using that all that 140 EBITDA to bring in the leadership, who's also a sales guy who can increase it. Also, I found out today through deeper research that they're selling seats, computers and all that for 90% less than the market rate. So the current contracts are long and sticky, but they're 90% undersold. Like they're barely breaking even. Like I said, they have a 5% margin. But so every contract after this would be closer to market rate. If not, market rate after that. But for example, it's 10 seats for $150 and the market rate is $100 per seat per computer.
Okay. So growth would be different than acquisition. So let's talk about the acquisition first. So basically, how much is it that they want for the company?
He was thinking about 5 times multiple, and
Okay. 5 times the 140?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, man, it's too low to even be a 5 times multiple. But.
Yeah, you'd have to look at the add back. So you said that it's profit, its EBIT is $50K. So what is the $90,000 in add backs that take it to 140?
Profit for, the sellers pay, the owner pay. And
do the sellers do anything for the company right now to earn that pay? Are they working in the company, or are they just completely absent and it runs by itself?
The main owner is the main client acquisition guy. It's literally like him at a golf club talking to people. And I think he's selling it. He's charging too much rent because he owns the building, and he's selling it to his buddies at cost. And so I think that's why it's in the position it's in.
Okay. So then your number's really not 140 because somebody's going to have to do that selling.
Yep.
And those golf memberships don't come cheap. I know mine doesn't. Right.
Nope.
So that's really got to be figured in there. If that's the marketing that's going on right now. And by the way, he's got no predictable selling system. So if he goes away, then that method of selling is going to go away as well. So that's all very concerning. So to pay, what is that, $700,000 for the company, that's doing 50K a year with no ability to sell, and it's only growing at 10% a year, doesn't sound, and its contracts are under market, sounds not exciting, right?
Right.
So I think you just have to paint that picture as look, it's not real. There's no point in talking if you think that I can add back the salary of the main salesperson who's going to go away and then pay based on that, because I'm going to have to immediately replace him with somebody else. And according to PayScale, Salary.com, and and Glassdoor, that salary is $120,000 a year. So there goes basically all my profit except for $20,000. So we're really looking at a $20,000 a year business. So I'll give you your 5 times. That's $100,000, right? That it doesn't sound great that way. So if you go to your earn in, then what you might say is, look, you don't have a saleable business right now. And you guys have had it, and it's a redheaded stepchild right now. You've not treated it. You guys know all that. How'd you like to get some money for it? Because there's just no way you're going to get the $700K. If you think you're going to market it for 6 months and then come back and talk to me, because I know you're not going to sell it. But I understand if you feel like you have to go out and try to do that. And if you do, God love you, but you've sold to a rube. So if you want to talk about how we can make this work and actually grow this into something, then let's look at it this way. I'll come in and I will run the business, and I'll tell you what, I will baseline at the 50K that you've got right now, and I want 80% of the up. I'm going to invest my time. I'm going to invest some additional capital into the company. I think it's got great potential. And then I would like an option to buy out your 20% for X amount of dollars, or at the end of 3 years or something like that. So you guys will actually get a lot more for it than if you tried to sell it now. Because the truth is, right now, it's basically worthless. And if we were going to give it dripping wet, your multiple times the true EBITDA, it'd be 250. But you're still not going to get that, because nobody's going to buy it for that. It's too small for anybody that's serious, and it's not got any professionalization at all, right? So I just have that conversation, very, very honest and candid with them, and say, but now let's take a look at what could happen. So now if we come in, we think that we can actually grow the business to making $1 million a year in EBITDA. And at $1 million a year in EBITDA, even at a multiple of 5, it would be worth more than that. But let's just say it's 5. It's worth $5 million, and your 20% is worth $1 million. And I'll buy you out at the end of that for 20% of whatever the value is, right? That would be a way to look at that deal that might be a little bit more favorable than other things. And of course, there's a billion ways to structure it, right? Does that make any sense at all, though?
Yeah, totally. That's kind of what we were thinking. Is having a EBITDA trigger, like once we reach this, then we'll buy out the whatever, but it would be triggered by that. Until then, you would just get 20% of any draws that we made.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and the way to do that would be you could do it a couple of different ways. Ideally, you would do it with a call option, meaning that you would have the ability to force them to be bought out at whatever 20% of the enterprise value is at the time. So like if you said it was a 3-year option or a 5-year option or whatever, they might come back. If it was me, I would come back and say, that's fine, I'll give you a call option, but I want to put, meaning I can force you to buy out my 20% at the end of that period as well for the same formula. And that would be a reasonable ask for you to give them if you feel comfortable doing that. Keeping in mind, of course, that you control the value of the company and you would know when the trigger was coming. So if you had built the business to $1 million in EBITDA, it'd be pretty easy for you to get financing, to take them out.
Sounds good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it was a trigger on a number that we reached together. That way there was no misconception that we're trying to drag the company back, to hold back price, or, so, and he would still be involved as at his golf club. Hey, yeah, still send people our way. Yeah. When we get here, it's going to be this.
Yeah. I like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I like the whiteboard too.
Thank you, Diana. Hey,
Hi,
Roland.
Sunil.
Hey, Sunil.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Good, good. How are you? I'm glad I'm
Good.
here.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. So I have two deals that I'm looking at, and my strategy first, I'm looking to buy companies in the education space and roll them up into an OTCQB listing in about a year to two.
Yep.
So first company is in the financial education space. They've been around for about 10, 11 years. They were generating 400 to 500K in revenue, 90% margin, 300 plus in net profit. This year, though, with COVID, that particular segment is badly hit. So annualized revenue based on the last 90 days, about 250K. So, but their cost is only 30K. The gross margin is 90% on the product sale. So that's one acquisition I'm interested in because I see upside for that. The second acquisition I'm looking at is actually a set of private schools in India. And I've known the owner for about 20 years. He wants to retire in the next 5 years. He has an offer for 12.5 million, and he's been holding out for 15.
Okay.
And the revenue is about 4 million. Net profits about 2 million.
Okay.
And there's real estate, and the real estate in the schools are actually run as a non-profit, and the real estate actually rents out to the schools. So that's where the ability to get cash. And one of the properties is actually prime real estate in the heart of the city. So I'm trying to structure these two offers.
Okay. So how can I help? What questions do you have?
So the first deal, given that the business is down now, and he is okay actually deferring that because he likes the roll-up. In fact, he has experience with the person who's helping with the roll-up. So he himself is going through that process in another company. And he has a large real estate portfolio running. So he just doesn't have time for 300K or 500K. Okay.
And so what's the question?
The question is, how would you go about structuring an offer? What's a reasonable offer in this kind of situation?
So that's a really big question because I don't know everything about the deal. So how would you acquire? You are doing a roll up into a public shell right now. Is that correct? Right. And so
to be public, yes.
It's OTC, you said, right? Over the counter?
It's OTCQB. The shell is not started yet. The shell it'll take about 12 months to go public.
Okay. So so you're going to be acquiring them, I'm assuming, with stock So, I mean, how I would structure the offer would be figure out the valuation for their company, negotiate that based on whatever is reasonable. And then you need to place a value on the stock, which is going to be somewhat arbitrary if it's not trading. So you'll have to establish, do you have market makers that have already agreed to get behind the stock to promote it?
Not yet. It's an OTCQB listing. So the market makers will be, initially the valuation will be set by the people doing underwriting. Right.
So you have to get an idea of what they're thinking that's going to be. So that, because otherwise you've got, right. So if you say, we're looking at, we have preliminary commitments from our underwriters for an open price bid of $5 a share, which puts a market cap on the company of, $10 million. And we're looking at acquiring your company, and we've agreed on, let's just say for ease, $1 million acquisition, then it would be 10% of the outstanding shares of stock of the company, which might increase, of course, by the way, but you don't, that's for them to negotiate.
Yes.
So I would just say, if there's 1 million shares of the company at $5 a share, that's, $5 million valuation, and your business is worth $1 million. So I'll give you, 20% in that case, or 10% in the first case. That's the way those are usually done. And then they're typically under restriction for a period of time. So it's 144 stock, or, with a restriction for 12 months or 24 months or whatever you want to say to sell. It's not registered shares that you're giving them. But that's how I would do it.
Right, and the 10 million kind of makes sense because they've done about 10 such IPOs, and the most recent one was done at about 10 million valuation.
Right, so that's perfect. So you have that as a case study to show your company that you're looking at acquiring too. Say, here's my partners. This is not our first rodeo. We've done this several times. Here's the last deal we've done. We look at this one to be about the same. So that's where my valuation is coming from.
The second deal, however, is much larger. And its valuation is about 15 million to buy as it stands.
This is to roll in as well to this company?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but then if it's added at a 10 million valuation, the dilution becomes significant.
It does, yeah. But that's, I mean, if you're going to acquire it with stock, then it's going to be that way. Does the company have other assets that you could use to finance some of that out?
The real estate is at least 50% or if not more.
Do you want the real estate?
Because the real estate is actually what holds the, otherwise there's no way to get the cash out of the nonprofit.
I see. Okay. It's a nonprofit?
Yeah, the school is operated as a nonprofit.
Okay. So where's the profit in it though? What's your motive for buying?
The $2 million cash flow.
$2 million cash flow comes from what?
It comes from, it's a free cash flow that is currently controlled by the owner of the school. The owner of the buildings, he operates the schools, he runs the schools. So even that's a nonprofit, he's able to pay the rent to the buildings.
Okay. So then, and what are the buildings without the school worth?
So at least one of them is prime property in the city. It's about an acre or more, and it is worth hundreds of dollars per square foot.
You cut out. Worth what?
Hundreds of dollars per square foot.
Hundreds of dollars per square foot. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't buy the nonprofit. I would carve that out and split it into two and take the buildings if I was doing that, and then finance your buildings using a typical building financing strategy. So let's say that you could finance 70% of the buildings, then you would only really need, you could do a hybridized deal and you could have a bank loan for 70% of the buildings, you know, or 80, depending on who you could get. And then you only need to raise the difference, which could potentially be done through the stock to the seller. So if you were buying the buildings for, let's say it's the full price, it's 15 million. If you were buying for 15 million and you could get 70% financing, then you'd need 4.5 million in cash, right? So then that 4.5 million could be what you agree to give to the seller of the stock in the company. But keep in mind that the post-money valuation is going to be higher because you're going to have all those assets added. So the formula for determining the amount of stock you would give would be the $10 million initial valuation plus the post-money valuation, so that they ended up with, you know, might end up being what might end up still being a significant amount, but maybe 22-ish%, 22.5% of the stock of the post-merger company.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That makes sense. That's not too bad, at least as a very seasoned, experienced operator. So
yeah.
Okay, cool. This is good ideas. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome.
Fantastic. So then the next one would be Carl Clift. Carl, you're looking at acquiring a nonprofit for entity. What specific things should I focus on that may be different than looking at LLCs or owner-operated entities? Carl, did you want to add anything else to that question?
Man, there's a ton, Carl. I'm going to ask you to just. Yeah. I'm going to. Hey, how you doing?
I'm going to do that right now. 1 second, man.
So what I'm going to do, Carl,
is that better?
It is, but that's don't buy nonprofits. Number one, okay? Don't buy nonprofits. Split nonprofits up into whatever is making the money that causes you to want to buy them, and buy that instead. Like with Sunil, don't buy the school, buy the asset that allows the thing to make money, because it's very hard to acquire a nonprofit in the first place, and it's a nonprofit. So, Carl, what you need to do as far as to get an answer to your question on what's different is have a conversation with Grant. And I don't know, Deanna, if we have another legal call coming up, but you get, I believe, Carl, you have the ability to talk with Grant. He'd be happy to chat with you and give you an overview of the difference. But I just don't see any reason to acquire nonprofits.
But if we like the business, the idea would be to grab the business itself as opposed to the entity, correct?
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
And just, Roland, you and I actually met at TNC years ago, and you keep talking about horses, so I'll just leave you with this real quick. There's your horse treats for you. I'm just
love
enjoying on a small farm. And I just kept hearing it 2 weeks ago. I'm like, I have to show you that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. You're very welcome.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.
Alan Rodriguez had a question. It says he's looking at medical records retrieval company. They are a C Corp. The corp
Great.
doesn't really show any profit because the two owners, one is 80%, the other is 20%, put all the profits into their salaries and some recent reinvestments into tech. We're building the tech for them. So how do I go about trying to figure out EBITDA or the general selling price of the company? I know the 20% owner wants out, and I think I'm okay with even a 50-50 ownership of this particular company. So Alan, you may want to jump in, but that's the question so far.
Okay, so the salaries that they're taking out, you have to determine, are those reasonable salaries? So you hear me again and again, like it's a thing that we have to do when we're buying companies is if there's a salary, is it reasonable? The only way to really determine if it's reasonable is to go to a third party. The 3 third parties that I like looking at are PayScale, Salary.com, PayScale.com, Salary.com, and what's the third one? And Glassdoor, Glassdoor.com. And then I can get an average of those 3 for whatever position that person is in. So you'd want to identify what are the job descriptions and positions that those owners have that they're doing right now. What's the reasonable salary for that position? And are they currently taking out more than or less than that reasonable amount? If they're taking out more than the reasonable amount, that's fine. You just add that additional amount to EBITDA. If they're taking out less, then you need to take some money out of EBITDA to make up the gap. So right now, let's say they're taking out $200,000 and the services that they're rendering really are only worth $100,000. Then we would add $100,000 back to EBITDA to then determine the valuation through a multiple. If they are paying themselves $200,000, but they should be receiving $400,000, then we would take $200,000 out of EBITDA before we applied our multiplier. So that's the basic way that I would go about determining where those guys are in terms of their salaries. In terms of the reinvestment in tech, it depends on whether the tech's lifespan that they have invested in is going to last some period of time, or it's a constant reinvestment that's needed. If it's a constant reinvestment that's needed, then it's not really a capital expense, it's a maintenance expense, or an expense that would be ordinary and necessary to the operation of the business that's likely to be recurring. Therefore, it's part of the expenses of operation. If, on the other hand, they said, well, we developed a piece of software and it cost us $400,000 to develop this bit of software, and now we'll use that software on an ongoing basis for the next 10 years as an asset of the company, then you might be willing to add back a portion of that investment, but you're getting that asset as part of the deal. So whatever multiple you're paying, that's going to be a negotiation about how that should be adjusted. So, is it, we're going to have to support that software. It's going to continue to be updated and it costs $100,000 a year, but they've been investing 150 in it. Then I might give them a 50K add back. I hope that makes sense, but that's how those are done.
Got it. That does make sense. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to read this one from Joanne. It's pretty long, so I'm going to read this one. Most companies will have an existing data center of some size. As part of my acquisition strategy in each case, I would like to include asset finance of the data center equipment for sale or lease back to pull money out. Yep. It is typically not easy to find a lender for this kind of equipment. In a data center, there are all different kinds of equipments of models, versions, ages, servers, firewalls, et cetera, et cetera. In each case, I was planning to get a complete inventory of the major equipment with the item, manufacturer, model, et cetera. That all can be confirmed by the lender. And then let's say the depreciation over 5 years, then if the equipment was 3 years old, it would have a value remaining of 40% of its original purchase price. Mm-hmm. Then I could capture that for all the main pieces of equipment. Then if a lender would lend or lease 80% of the retained equipment value, that would be a formula I could repeat in each and every company. That is, of course, assuming that the balance sheet would show that the company could support those payments. So do you know any specific lender who's willing to work like that on a repetitive basis? And if no lenders are willing to lend against used equipment anymore, asset-based finance as a strategy is no longer on the table. She can only find lenders who are willing to finance the purchase of new equipment. And there are some serious asset-based lenders, and she wants to know if there's some left there.
Yeah, I haven't looked for that recently, so I don't know. But I would be happy to ask some of the asset-based lenders that we know. So Deanna, if you'll just shoot me a text and remind me to do that, then I will check on that for you, Joanne. Absolutely. That all makes sense.
That would be terrific. These days, I honestly can't find anybody willing to finance used equipment. You know, and if that's not possible, then that whole group of possibilities of asset finance, you know, goes away, you know, because nobody's financing much these days, you know, with this current scenario.
But what if that is the case and you can't? And I don't know, but I do know some people that own some pretty large data centers. So, and I know some asset-based lenders that work with those guys. So let me find out. But you should be able to do revenue-based financing. So even though you might not be able to do asset-based, as long as revenue is being generated from those operations, that would be another way to do it that doesn't require assets.
So basically, the stream of revenue, assuming it's ongoing.
Correct.
But this, you're talking about factoring, or you talk of
talking about revenue-based financing. So based on the amount of subscriptions to the data center's services, there is the ability to get financing based on that continuing revenue stream. Not accounts receivable, but it's, hey, every month we get $300,000. Okay, great. So based on that $300,000 a month revenue stream that is steady and stable, there are lenders that will lend on that. And so that's what I'm talking about.
Do you have names?
Yeah, Lighter would be one, but there's if you just Google revenue-based financing data center, that might be the first place to start. But it's just general revenue-based financing. American Express does it. It depends on, you know, who's merchanting is a place that I would look also, is who is doing the merchant processing for those people, if there's anybody doing that, because if they are, that makes sense. But otherwise, there's a lot of companies that do RBF.
The problem is that the data centers I'm talking about are not rented out to other people. They're used by the company themselves. You know, this is not the rental of the data center. This is the use of the data center of, for example, IT companies. You know.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. But if you're going to buy it, they're going to be paying you something for it, right?
They're going to be paying for use of the data centers, you're saying?
Yes.
No, they'll be paying for consulting.
They'll be paying for consulting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, if there's, I mean, is there an income stream that you're buying there?
Yes.
Is the thing making money right now?
I'm talking about a generic group of consulting companies, for example, that are all making money. But they're making money on consulting, not on leasing out data centers.
Got it. Yeah. So you can still do revenue-based financing if there's any revenue at all. So I'll send you. I'll put a list in the chat of several.
Yeah. Also, Rob responded to there in the chat, and he said he could also help you, Joanne, with possibly some asset-based lenders through his partnerships.
Who Rob? Who?
He's on the slide here. He put in the chat. It's Rob. It says Rob's iPhone.
Right. Okay. Rob, could you please put your email? I don't.
So I just posted.
Okay.
Also.
Okay. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
And the last two questions we have, the first one will be from Larnie. She was asking, how do you distribute all profit to partners annually, or do you have any of the percentage left for the businesses?
Yeah, you're not required to distribute them. So that's a decision that most businesses make quarterly or monthly or at the end of each year. And whatever the board of directors or whoever's making those decisions, depending on the type of entity, decides is how you do it. So then it's just simply a prorated distribution.
And then same from Larnie was asked, how do you structure the percentage partnership if one contributes some money and one will pay the down payment? What will be my percentage share in the ownership and profit?
that's not enough information for me to answer. Can you give me a little bit more information?
Larnie, are you available to chat? Larnie? Okay. You may want to come up next. I'm going to go next to the other one would be, here we go, and if Larnie, if you do, just let us know. Shavra is saying, Shavra's in India and says, is there any specific type of industries that I should look at to acquire businesses, or in any industry and the vertical would be fine? I researched a lot of online e-learning companies, but they're not looking at getting acquired as they are mostly young entrepreneurs and the businesses are in growth trajectory. Should I shift my focus at the type of businesses to look at? Also, getting a loan as a non-citizen can be very challenging. So I'm looking at a revenue-based finance, cash flow-based finance, and I'm looking for best businesses to target and best lenders.
So the best businesses to acquire in India or in?
Where should you look? Yeah.
Say that again. I heard you don't, Deanna.
Yep.
I think they chimed in.
Yep. Go ahead, Shavra.
Yeah. Hi, Roland. Yes,
Hey.
I'm looking at. Hi. So I'm based out of India, and I'm working in the VRs, and I'm looking at businesses in the US. I have a registered LLC based out of the US.
Okay.
I'm still struggling with finding the right niche to target, because I see that a lot of companies which are young, maybe 2015 registered or 2016 registered, and they're growing, or they're kind of on the growth trajectory, and they're not so keen on getting bought over and these things. So I'm looking, should I look at a different kind of industry? I'm kind of confused, because I looked at SaaS-based companies, tech companies, and deep tech and emerging technology companies, but most of them, they're doing well. Then I went to Google. Google Maps, and I started looking at businesses in California, and then I thought maybe I should call them up directly. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm kind of lost, to be very honest. I'm not knowing, because from the kind of response that I have got, these companies, they don't want to be acquired. So I don't know. They're happy doing what they're doing, and they're like, we're not looking at any kind of investment. We're not looking at
it just depends. I mean, you need to find companies, like if you're just going to active SaaS companies, they're probably the most expensive company you could find right now, and they are typically funded by young upstarts. You need to plug yourself into networking more, because just like going to Google Maps and finding companies is very, very, very random. So what I would do is get plugged into more SaaS community. If you're looking for SaaSes, whatever business you're looking to acquire, you need to start networking in that industry. So find out the places that those people are hanging out. You also might consider looking at some venture groups that are focused on SaaSes, and some angel groups. And then you can find companies, but remember, we're looking for motivated sellers. And so you are experiencing what happens when you don't get motivated sellers, is you have people who are in an industry that think their company is worth. I mean, I can tell you, we got into software development because I went up to the Valley, to Silicon Valley here in the United States, and met with a bunch of the top venture capital companies and several SaaS owners of companies that we were looking at buying. We were looking at buying a funnel building company, and the valuations were just insane. And the VCs told me, they said, listen, it's very frothy right now, and it still is in terms of valuations. So you're not going to find a SaaS that is funded up here that is going to be anywhere close to reasonable to acquire. You're going to be way better off to build your own. So one of the things that you might think about doing is look at a development company that does the programming for SaaSes. You might reach out to the developer community and look at some people that develop SaaSes and talk to some people about who is motivated right now, who's at the end of their runway, who has not gotten the funding, who's done down rounds. All of those would be places that I would think I could find more motivated type sellers, and then get involved in the networking groups for SaaS companies in the geographic areas that you're looking, or in the the topical areas that you're looking for. Those would be the first places I would look. And there are huge directories like there's, I think, 8,000 MarTech companies. So like if you pick a category, like let's say it's marketing technology and I want SaaSes in that space. Well, there's a list of all those companies and you can do research and find out the ones that are funded. I don't want those. The ones that are, that were listed there last year, but aren't listed there this year, I'd be kind of interested in those people. Right. So that, like, if you're going to go about it, you just really have to plug into the industry and spend some time networking and then do some research like that.
So, like, as I'm in India, do you think it's imperative that I move to the US for this kind of activity?
Not at all.
I'm still trying to understand that because I'm doing all my networking online, and I think I have to, as you said, like, target the right groups.
Yeah, you know what, Deanna, might be helpful for Shravya would be to chat with Nitin.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this down, Shabra, and I'll connect you with Nitin.
Yeah, so Shabra, one of our War Room members, is a really, really great guy. He is originally from India. His name is Nitin, and go ahead.
Sorry, Nitin Chota, yes. Yeah,
Nitin Chota, and he has businesses both in India and in the United States, and in the SaaS space, and has developed SaaSes. And so I think he would be, and he's also an investor. So I think he'd be a good guy for you to chat to get maybe a little bit more deep dive. So we'll connect you with him, and I think that'll be very helpful for you.
Hey, thank you so much, Roland. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, the last question today is from Mona, and Mona says, I'm in the due diligence for an earn-in deal where I will earn 40% to 51% equity with zero down in exchange for executing the scalable strategies, federal and state government contracting and other verticals, since the owner has verbally agreed. Should I bypass the LOI and present the working agreement now?
Yes. Number one, congratulations, and number two, you have your deal points, so it's just time to document them. Absolutely.
All right, Roland, I think we've covered them.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. And I'm really excited about the progress everybody has. You're asking questions that are questions that people who are doing this are asking. So that's very, very cool. And we'll continue to meet and help guide you through this, and just keep doing what you're doing. Deanna will hook me up with a couple of the things that I need to do, and then we'll go from there.
I've got notes. I've got notes. Don't worry.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.